I'm James Worsham, an accomplished designer, carpenter, and artist based out of Nashville, Tennessee. I've designed installations all across the country for the last 15 years. Now I'm here to teach all of that to you. This is Blank Wall Overhaul. Whew. Oh, it's freezing in here. How is it this cold? Maybe because the heat in my office is broken? Well, at least all of this cold weather has given me a great idea for a new installation. We're gonna make mountain shelves. This is a great example of form and function. Using a jigsaw, we're gonna make a vast group of mountains that span the entire wall. The bottom and sides will have a border that'll double as bookshelves. I've had this idea for a while and I'm really excited about it. Before we head to the space, we need to do some prep in the studio, which is awesome because luckily the heat still works in there. The first thing that we have to do is to draw out the composition for our mountain shelves. We'll be using a pencil and a T-square to do this, and the T-square will function as our straight edge. Now you want to give yourself a good amount of peaks and valleys, just giving myself a really beautiful composition. So I'm going to start over here on my left-hand side, and I'm not really too worried yet as to where exactly I'm starting, because again, this is all pencil, so if I'm not happy with the final composition, I can erase it and start over. All right, so you can see the composition that I've mapped out. I have a good amount of peaks and valleys. I didn't add just singular vertical and horizontal lines. Instead, I did kind of a mixture of both, just to make it feel a little bit more natural. From here, I'm ready to cut these out. No moving mountains with this project. I'm gonna go ahead and drill a couple holes in our plywood board first. These will actually act as insertion points for the jigsaw blade. My jigsaw can't really come around and up and over those peaks and those sharp angles. So instead, by drilling a small hole there first, it acts as a pilot. Here we have our beautiful, freshly cut mountain range. Now, as you can see, all of our peaks and valleys really came out nice, crisp, and clean. From here, you want to go ahead and cut your shelf into thirds. This is where our T-square comes in handy again. I'll line it up with the bottom edge to make sure that it sits nice and square, draw a nice straight line, and then cut out that line as well. It's good to go ahead and just do a light sanding on all of these edges to remove any burrs on the surface. All right, with our backer boards nice and sanded, we're ready to make these mountains into shelves. I cut down a piece of solid oak board that's about 10 inches deep by about 3/4 of an inch thick. Lining up my board, you can see a little bit easier as to how I did my math. I lined up my first board very flush with the bottom of the panel that I cut earlier. From there, I lined up my second shelf board that'll form the side of our shelves with the bottom piece, and just measured down 3/4 of an inch from the top side of our shelf. Even though all of our boards are going to be different sizes, they'll all come down equidistant from the edges of our boards. I then repeated that for the opposite side, giving us a really nice, beautiful U-shaped shelf. From here, I want to make sure that all of my shelf pieces are lined up flush with the edges that they're next to and trace them out using a pencil. Once you have your entire U-shape traced out, go ahead and remove your boards. So now I can see traced out onto our backer panel what our final installation is going to be. Now what I want to do is go ahead and pre-drill holes through our plywood. That's the reason why we traced out our shape. When we know where our boards are actually going to hit, I'm not worried about trying to line up exactly where my hole needs to be. Once you've actually lined out your entire shelving with all the holes that you need, you're ready to start attaching your shelves. And what we want to do is we're going to turn our piece up on its side. Take the bottom panel of your shelf and line it up so that it sits nice and flush. From there, Okay, so from here, it should line up perfectly. Yep, spot on. Now I want to make sure that this hole stays in place, so what I'm going to do is just screw it in now. So as you can see, our bottom panel is now fully attached, and it's actually pretty sturdy as it is. But because this is going to be holding books and other heavy objects, we want to make sure that it's very sturdy. So we're going to repeat the exact same process on the sides. Okay, so now that we have all of our screws installed and our panels are basically attached, we're almost done. Now, as you can see though, the side panels that we attached aren't giving us much support. Now what you want to do is drill in from the bottom of our bottom shelf into the bottom of our side shelf. Okay, so now that our bottom panel is firmly attached to our two side pieces, you're ready to actually repeat the same process for the other two shelves. See? I told you, that wasn't that hard. Easy enough to build by yourself. All of our shelves have now been built. From here, what I want to do is give myself a couple pre-drilled holes for easier mounting. For this step, I like to use a countersink bit. Pre-drills the hole like before, except it also gives us a small circular wedge into the wood. This will make sure that our screw sits flush with the surface of the wood, and anything that's actually sitting on the shelf won't be bumped forward. And now we're ready for staining. And this is the big transformation that we've all been waiting for. We'll take this nice, beautiful light wood and make it a nice, rich, dark tone. Our staining is complete, and I think our mountains look so good. I mean, I love how all of that stain just brings out this beautiful tonal values of the wood, and it just gives this whole other dimension to this piece. So we just want to let these dry for about 24 hours, and then we're ready to install them in our room. All right, here we are in our very empty guest bedroom. We're going to be transforming this space into a beautiful elevated office complete with mountain shelves. Now normally, this is the part where I would tell you everything that's wrong with the room, but since this is transforming from a bedroom into an office, there's really not much to say. One thing that does work in this space is the paint color in the room, but really though, there's no pop. Since we're going to be installing our really amazing mountain shelves on this wall, I want there to be something that stands out, so I'm actually going to paint this wall a really rich black. And now I know what you're thinking, who paints a room that dark? I'm also going to be having our mountain shelves on this wall, and because of those really rich wood tones that we have in our shelves, the black is going to look amazing. And well, that's about it. So with the help of a little bit of TV magic and some extra hands, we're going to go ahead and move all of this furniture out of here and get this wall painted. Right? We're going to paint this wall? Somebody's going to paint this, right? The wall behind me has been painted our beautiful jet black. Now for our wall, since we're making this into an office, I'm thinking the desk is gonna go in front of our mountain shelves. So I wanna make sure that I have enough room below our shelves so that the chair can still slide back and it won't hit anything, but also enough room that it feels visually appropriate for the wall. For ours, I want our shelves to be somewhere in this area. It keeps the composition close to eye level, which makes it feel more like an art piece. So let's start with our first shelf. We'll use our tape measure and a pencil to mark off our first line. Writing on a black wall with pencils, not my smartest idea, but I made it work. From here, you can actually make your life a little bit easier by pre-threading your screws by just gently twisting them into place. That way you're not sitting there trying to line up a screw with the hole that you've already pre-drilled. You can then just use your drill just to drill it into place on the wall. Okay, so our first shelf is up and it looks great. For our second two shelves, you just want to make sure that both of the bottom levels are actually even and consistent, making sure it's a nice clean line across the entire composition. All right. Who knew mountain shelves would be so easy? Come on. Come on, that was a good one. All right, so now that our mountain shelves are done, I say we finish turning this bedroom into an office. Our installation is complete, and this room is the definition of overhauled. It's no longer a bedroom, and it's now a beautiful, sleek, and sophisticated office. The black wall really adds a beautiful element, and it accents our incredible mountain shelves really well. We made sure to leave the mountain shelves a little bit more on the empty side to showcase the design and make sure that all of the wood tones were really the focal center point of the room. It brings the entire design aesthetic into a good focal point, but it also makes sure that it serves its purpose by holding a fair amount of objects. We wanted more bookshelves in the room just to make sure that we had full functionality to use this space as an office. These shelves serve as a really beautiful focal point behind the desk and a really nice design accent, but they also serve a lot of function by adding a great space for storage as well as some beautiful objects on the wall. The black wall and the warm tan tones of the wood have a really strong complementary relationship, and together they're the perfect definition of form and function. One of the biggest design elements we used in this space was a lot of different tones of wood. It adds a really nice layered feel, and they give the space a lot more warmth than it would otherwise have. When styling this room, we went ahead and used really tall plants next to really low tables, really high bookshelves next to a really low bench. This idea of using peaks and valleys in our design is literally taken from our peaks and valleys from our mountain range behind me. This goes to show that you don't have to use just colors and tones in your design. Instead, you can also reference strong shapes and patterns to make sure that the design feels cohesive. Well, now that we've converted an empty bedroom into a beautiful office, I'd say my work here is done. I guess that just means I have to go back and fix the heat in my office. Can I use this one till my heat's fixed? Okay, worth a shot. Now that you've seen my blank wall, I want to see yours. Use #MyBluprint and show us what you got.